Look, it's an offer letter. We call it a demand letter because we both use the stick and the carrot in the standard letter, right? All we're trying to do is get them to come to the table. If we can get them to email me or call me, that gives us the opportunity to A, explain to them the situation, and then if they have questions about the Texas law, I'll be happy to explain it to them too.
At this point, it's either going to the tax sale or someone like me is going to work on it, and you can't do nothing anymore.
Correct. It could end up in a lawsuit. And my client has authorized me to file a suit against you. But that's the last thing we want to do. That's bad for you and it's bad for my client, and I hate court.
Let's just make a deal.
Right. Let's do a deal.
From caddying for a PGA Tour winner to winning a nearly $7 million judgment to while you're here, untangling deals that can make a fortune, Dan Burke has seen it all. And here's the thing, behind the golf stories, the legal victories, is a man who can spot the flaws, the loopholes, and the opportunities in a very short amount of time. Just because you're a lawyer doesn't mean you know how to do this. He knows exactly how. Today, he's going deep in the world of dirty titles, big wins, and the kind of legal thinking that could either save you or make you millions, but very few attorneys really understand how to do this. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, Logan. How are you?
How you like that intro?
I liked it. It was good.
Made you sound
flattering.
good, right?
Yeah, and you put in the golf stuff, which I appreciate.
The good news is all
Checks in
true.
the mail.
Well, so you're a lawyer. That's how I've known you, but I've heard the golf stories. So, you know, the way we know each other is through business for a long time now. But
Yep.
tell me about how I know you wound up in the legal field over here, but there's a lot that happened before then. Tell me about that before you got in the legal field, because that's fun.
You got it. Growing up, I only had one goal in life, and that was to play golf on TV. And I wasn't good enough. I played in college a little bit and then realized that I wasn't good enough. And I said, well, if I'm going to actually achieve my goal, the closest thing I can do is caddy. So I actually quit college in 1988, went and caddied for about 8 months on the PGA Tour, and then went broke and came crawling back home. And Dad said, get a job, go back to school, or get out. I said, all right.
I come crawling back home, and he's like, this, or get back out.
That's it. And I said, all right, I'm broke. I'll go back to school. I eventually ended up getting a degree from Southwest Texas State. And I graduated on December 16th, 1991. And on January 2nd, 1992, I left for the West Coast to go caddy again.
Dad is like, old habits die hard. Huh?
Right.
Why did you go back and do that again? You got another opportunity?
I did, and it wasn't out of my system yet. So I told my parents that I was going to go do it again and do it for a year.
What'd they say to that?
Mom cried, and she screamed at my dad over dinner in front of all my siblings. Ed, he's joining the circus again.
Sucks, Mom.
And my dad responded, damn it, Doe. We told him if he got a degree, he could do whatever he wanted. If this is what he wants to do, what the hell? We'll just take out an extra life insurance policy on him. And he did. He co-signed a loan so I could buy a new Hyundai. And I left for the West Coast and started caddying.
What town did you land in?
My first event that year was the AT&T Pro-Am at Pebble Beach. And I was caring for a guy named Bruce Zabriskie.
And how do you get that connection? How's that happen?
Bruce was a club professional out of New York who knew my older brother. And my older brother gave him a call and said, hey, my younger brother wants to caddy on tour. He'll show up. He'll do as good a job as possible, and he's cheap. And Bruce said, okay, I'll meet him Monday morning at 9 o'clock at Pebble Beach, which he did. And I ended up working a month for Bruce, made 3 out of 4 cuts. And from Bruce, I moved to another player, John Chafee. And then
So you worked for a couple different pros.
I've worked for a lot of guys.
Okay, it wasn't the same one then.
My main guy was a pro, Bob Estes. And to give you a little background, you can rank tour players basically A, B, C, D. Bruce and John were probably C to D players. Eventually, I got hooked up with Bob Estes, and he was a minus to a B player. He was a very good journeyman pro. Matter of fact, I was working for Chafee on a Hogan Tour event. That's like the minor leagues for the PGA Tour in Gulfport, Mississippi. This is before cell phones.
Are they paying for your travel?
Oh, hell no.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, just to give you an idea, I got $200 a week when I started, paid for all my food, gas, hotel. And unless you made the cut, you would probably work, 5 days, 10 to 12 hours a day and lose money. I mean, you had to be a true sicko. Remember, this is before Tiger Woods. To all you people out there in YouTube land, before Tiger Woods, there wasn't a lot of money on the PGA Tour, okay? And you would lose money. But I was a golf sicko, and I was traveling to all the places I wanted to go. I mean, as a golfer, you want to go to Pebble Beach.
Oh, yeah.
You want to go to Riviera. You want to go to Honolulu. What's the name of the course? Wailea, I think, where they play the Hawaiian Open. You want to go to Torrey Pines in San Diego. You want to hit all the big ones, Doral in Miami.
So these are like
TPC.
the places that like dreams are made of to the
Right.
golfers, and you get to go.
If you're a baseball player, I'm getting to go to Yankee Stadium one week, and then the next week I'm at Shea. The week after that, I'm at Comiskey. The week after that, I'm at Wrigley Field. The week after that, I'm at Detroit. So it's a big deal. Yeah. For me, I'm living a dream. Am I swinging the clubs? No. But I'm inside the ropes, and I'm in the game.
Yeah, it's exciting still.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. And then I ended up hooking up with Estes at Hilton Head in 1992, and I ended up working 4 years for him.
Oh, that's a run. That's it. Was it more stable, a little bit better pay, like consistency stuff?
I mean, he was a solid player. He was a B. He made cuts. I think he paid me $250 a week to start, so I got a little raise. And then by the time I retired, which was Hilton Head in 1996, I was up to $500 a week. Bob was on TV so much I got paid money for my hat because the caddy would get on TV.
Cool.
I was getting free shirts. I was large. I was living lavish.
You got a 100% raise from when you started.
Yeah, and in fact, in 1994,
shoot, you were getting there. Why'd you stop then?
I had been everywhere I wanted to go. I was now out there almost 5 years.
The appeal is coming away.
And I'd gotten married, and remember.
Oh, you got married while that was happening?
Yeah, I got married in 1995.
Ooh.
Bob came to the wedding. He actually gave a little speech at the rehearsal dinner, and he was absolutely hilarious. I was sitting there, and I'm like, dude, I don't even know you, because that guy is never on the course. The guy who was on the course was serious and, grinded, and it was business. Occasionally, when he wasn't around, he'd lighten up a little bit. But at the wedding, man, he was like a freaking comic,
That's funny.
It was. He was absolutely hilarious. And it was very nice of him to come. But back to why I retired, again, this is before Tiger. So in 1994, Bob won the Texas Open. He got a $180,000 check. I got $18,500 that week. That was a lot of money back then.
Biggest check you've ever gotten.
Absolutely.
And at the rate you're getting paid, better part of a year's pay.
Oh, yeah. In 94, he finished 14th on the money list. He also finished like 44th at the British Open. So I went to Scotland with him and carried in the British Open. Then we went to Japan after the Tour Championship. And Bob finished like 40th in Hatayama. And then he finished second at the Tahoe Masters. He lost to Jumbo Ozaki, who's like the Babe Ruth of Japanese golf. And in fact, he was a Japanese professional baseball player before he was a professional golfer in Japan.
Whoa.
He finished second there. So Bob had a monster year. There was probably 10 caddies in the world who made more money than I did that year. And after I was done with my travel expenses and self-employment taxes, I cleared like $54,000.
That's like, I don't know, today, that's probably a couple $100,000 worth equivalent of income.
If I had the same year today, yeah, it would be. But if I had the same year today for a tour player, I would make $1.5 million.
Oh my gosh.
Because Tiger brought so much money to golf. But I didn't know Tiger Woods was Tiger Woods.
You didn't know he was coming.
I knew that he was a very good golfer. I'd seen him. I'd read about him. But nobody knew that Tiger was going to quadruple the money in a matter of a few years.
You know what's interesting? Your parents were like, he's joining the circus. Your mom's so mad. And within half a dozen years, you make a darn good income. You've gotten a fun experience. That's what they never expected would happen.
No, I lived a dream, and
then you got married.
Right. Well, I got married, but she worked for America West Airlines. It's now part of U.S. Air. So she used to fly all over the place to see me. It was
cool.
Good. It was a fun life. I've got no regrets. And over the time, I had gotten better. So when I left in 1996, I left to actually go play. And then I played the mini tours for about a year and a half, went broke, spent what little money I had saved. And, then I had to start thinking about getting a job.
At that point, you're what, knocking on 30?
Yeah, let's see. I got married when I was 27, and that was in 95, 96. I'm 28. By the time I quit playing golf, I was probably 29, almost 29. You're
married, knocking on the door of 30s.
Right. Like we were going to have kids.
That's when men grow up, is that era.
True. And truthfully, I didn't realize this until much, much later. I had the discipline of a caddy, not a tour player. So
that's interesting.
That's a hindrance to, if you want to be a really good golfer, you probably shouldn't behave like a caddy. John Daly behaves like a caddy, but he has way more talent than I do.
He's a natural.
And he could do it. There was a guy named Lance Tenbrock. He behaved like a caddy. I've drank with Lance and John, and they would have been great caddies. In fact, Lance Tenbrock ended up caddying for a tour player named Jesper Parnevik. And I think Lance was actually happier as a caddy than a player.
That's funny.
I wasn't good enough. And then from there, I worked construction. I was a grunt on a framing crew in Phoenix, Arizona.
What a change from caddying at some of the coolest places for the coolest people with good income, and you're framing in Arizona.
Yeah.
Whoa.
My cousin owned the company, so he gave me a job. I was making $10 an hour, and I loved it. I mean, we'd go to an empty slab, and then we were building custom homes, 10,000 square feet with a casita in the back and all kinds of stuff. And I loved it. And we would sit there and drink beer when we were done at the end of the day and admire what we did. We built shit.
It's gratifying to see the products of your hands.
And they were good guys. I mean, they were caddies. They just didn't caddy. They built shit. They were carpenters or framers. And then I got bit by a rattlesnake on one of those jobs. Ended up in Scottsdale Memorial. Thought I was going to die. And my cousin came to see me when I was in Scottsdale Memorial. And he told me that I didn't have an ounce of carpentry blood in my body and that I probably ought to consider a different profession and that there was no shame in not being a tradesman.
What did your cousin do?
He owned the framing company.
The one you worked for.
He was a carpenter, right.
Oh, he's like, you can do better somewhere else, boy.
Right. He's like, maybe you ought to consider using your mind and not your skills as a carpenter because you don't have any.
So you liked it more than you were good at it?
Yes. So from there, I took his counsel to heart.
His counsel, that's indicative of the direction you're headed.
Right. I temporary job at Charles Schwab. I got put on the phones answering tax questions. They liked me. My manager came to me and goes, "Do you think you could become a licensed stockbroker?" I'm like, what the fuck? Sure. Can I swear?
All you want.
I'm sorry. Like, okay. They gave me the books. They paid for the exam. I passed it. So next thing you know, I'm a stockbroker, and then I'm answering 100 calls a day, placing trades. That was fun. Then I said, all right, I'll become rich, and I'll do stocks. And then I did that for a year, maybe two, and I realized that I was not that smart that I could beat the market.
Hard.
A few guys could do it, but
few.
I couldn't do it. So then I was like, okay, that didn't really work. And then they rolled out a initiative program, whatever, where we had to do something. And we're at a team meeting and they're rolling it out. I'm on a team of stockbrokers and I have a new manager. The guy goes, my manager, Mark McKelly, who I liked. He was a very good guy. I played golf with him. He says, is there any questions? And I raised my hand and I said, yes. Did anybody tell the guys in San Francisco that this is the stupidest fucking thing they've thought of so far? And I said, here's the problems with it. And I listed off like 4 problems. And I said, what's going to happen is the brokers are going to end up spending too much time entering the shit into the computer, and then our calls are going to back up. Now, remember, this is before there was online trading. Schwab was pioneering that at the same time. But immediately before that, we would be in call centers and there'd be 300 calls on hold. These are all people who want to place trades.
They all did paper tickets and...
No, we were on a DOS system and you would operate, You would enter it right in. And I'm on headphones and I'd go, thank you for calling Charles Schwab. This is Dan Burke in Phoenix NIS. How can I help you? And on the other end, there'd be Jim Smith. And he'd say, I want to buy I-Omega right now. God damn it. I was on hold 7 minutes. The price is shot up. What the hell? And I'm like, okay, Mr. Smith, what's your account number? And they would be like, my account number is 123XYZ, blah, blah, blah. I'd pull it up and I'm like, you don't have any money. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant it was one. Blah, blah, blah. And I find his account and I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, I see it. He said, okay. I want I-Omega. I want 100 shares of it. Blah, blah, blah. I put it in. I go, your trade's in. It's confirmed. You got I-Omega at blah, 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 blah. Okay, great.
Click.
Now,
Next.
he may call back an hour later because it's up 4 points. I want to sell that. God damn it. Da, 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 da.
So is this a retail trading desk, basically?
Yeah, I'm just taking calls, entering trades, okay? Not everybody was jacked up, but a lot of them were, especially if it was a volatile day in the market, right? Mm-hmm. And this is back, you're in the late 90s, so you're really in the dot-com bubble, and the swings in the market were extreme, and there was people day trading. I'm talking to guys who were like engineers, had jobs for $80,000 a year, and they're quitting their job to day trade, okay?
Wow.
Everybody's wrapped tight. I'm like, okay, I kind of liked it. And I'm day trading my own shit and I'm losing money. And I'm like, oh, what the hell? But back to the team meeting, I said, this is dumb. You're going to slow down the trades. And that's going to back up call volume. And all you guys do is yell at us because there's too many calls on hold. We got to get through the calls, bang the calls, get the calls out. Of course, don't make any errors when you're entering this shit into this,
hurry up and be perfect.
abacus that they gave us to frickin' trade from, right? And I'm like, so this is dumb. He's like, okay.
You're fired.
You're heard. No.
Okay.
I come into work the next day and he goes, yeah, I need to talk to you. And he goes, this is your write-up. What do you mean that's my write-up? He goes, what you did last night at the team meeting is insubordinate. And we're going to write you up. Strike one, 3 strikes, you're out. And I said, I offered a great suggestion and you're writing me up for insubordination? He said, it may have been a great suggestion, but the way
it wasn't a great delivery.
The way you presented it was inappropriate.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm not going to sign it. He says, well, we're going to put it in your file anyway. I said, I understand that, but I offered a suggestion, and Mark, as your friend, I suggest that you send that up to San Francisco and you'll probably get a bonus. He's like, okay, Dan.
He's like, shut up, Dan.
I understand. Okay. And then the meeting's over. Okay. And he says, hey, Dan, just so you know, the directors all know who you are. They listen to you on their calls. You're very good. You haven't made an error. But they don't think you're ever going to be a manager here. They may keep you as a trader, but when the web platform comes out, now I don't even know what the web is at this time, right? We're not going to need near as many brokers, because people are going to do this on the computer themselves. I'm like, wow, that's some crazy ass shit.
And he's kind of giving you a little lead.
Right. He's like, you may want to think about, maybe you want to go to Merrill Lynch or, A.G. Edwards or whoever and get your own book and stuff. You're not a Schwabby. That's what they call those guys.
Schwabby.
I was like, okay. I hang on a couple of months, and they roll out the website. I don't even know what it is. This freaking icon for Netscape shows up on my computer screen. Now, remember,
that's your replacement.
Right. At this time, our computer screens are like tubes. They're not flat panel shit like we have today. And you definitely didn't have 2 of them, right? Or 4. And I'm like, okay, what the hell's this? The guy next to me goes, they're going to show us how to use the web. I'm like, what the fuck's the web? He goes, that's the computers talking to the computers. You could talk to anybody throughout the world over your computer. I'm like, why would I want to do that? He's like, because it's cool. I'm like, doesn't sound cool to me. He said, wow, we're going to get class on it. Sure enough, we click on the Netscape icon and up pops a browser. And then we type in www.schwab.com. And it's it. And then they had dummy accounts in there. And we filled it in. And I looked at this thing and I go, holy shit, this is idiot proof. Nobody's going to need a stockbroker after this shit hits the market.
Uh-oh. So what's next?
Literally, that's how profound it was to me. Yeah. I mean, I'm a freaking caddy. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'd used a computer in college just as a word processor. It was like a freaking typewriter to me. Mm-hmm. So I call my brother who's in law school at Texas Tech, and I said, you ever hear of the World Wide Web? He goes, no, what the hell's that? I said, it's this shit where computers talk to computers, and it's going to put me out of a job. He goes, computers talking to computers is going to put you out of a job as a stockbroker? I was like, yeah, man. I said, there's shit called websites, and when this website hits it, you're going to be able to place your own trade. And they're only going to charge you $99. Like trading through me at the time was like $200 a trade, right?
Wow.
I mean, Charles Schwab just ringing the register, cha-ching, 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 right? They're paying me $14 an hour and charging $200 a trade. Now, I'm sure there's insurance and all kinds of shit, and the computers in the building and everything else, but
they're doing good.
Chuck was making money, okay, off of me. That's okay. So I explained it to him, and I said, long story short, man, when this web hits the world, I'm out of a job.
So how long was it from then until you're in law school?
He says, you ought to become a lawyer. You like to argue. Okay. Took me a year to get into law school.
From a caddy who the parents thought were joining the circus And you find yourself in law school. What a big difference.
Yeah.
15 years of a life, a lot of growing up.
Yep.
You found your profession.
Yeah. I went to law school, and then at St. Mary's started in 99. So I retired from caddying.
You're stockbrokering in Scottsdale, or you're framing in Scottsdale and stockbrokering there?
Yeah, in Phoenix. I lived in Phoenix. Schwab was in Phoenix proper. And then the custom homes we were building were Scottsdale, Paradise Valley. I mean, Phoenix has got a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a huge city and still growing, but it was growing big time back then.
So then you came here for law school.
I did. That's how I got to San Antonio. Started the fall semester of 99 at St. Mary's, did well. Ended up finishing in the top 10% of my class at law school. Got a good job in Dallas, passed the bar, went to Dallas, didn't work for the family. Culturally, Dallas and San Antonio are like night and day. Dallas is really like L.A. East or the L.A. of Texas. Although Austin's kind of taken that over now. So I worked there for a year, came back to San Antonio, worked for a few different guys, doing mostly plaintiff's work, eventually found my niche doing business and commercial litigation, and then I would call myself a business litigator, but we would also try the cases. And the best verdict we ever got, it was my client, but I was second chair because there was so much money at risk that a good buddy of mine, Barry McClanahan, who, I mean, he's a great trial attorney. He's unbelievable in front of juries. And when things go wrong, he gets funny. When things go wrong for me, I get mad. It's pretty normal shit.
And that makes juries wonder what's wrong with you and like
you
you less, and your client is a resulting trouble or damaged.
And Barry's not that way. So he was first chair, but we ended up getting $6.8 million. Or that's what the verdict was. That's what my client recovered. We did it on an hourly. And my client gets a judgment for $6.8 million.
How long did you spend chasing that $6.8 million after the verdict?
We didn't, because we bankrupted all three defendants.
You didn't win. You
the
won.
client had to hire a new attorney to go chase him through bankruptcy.
Oh, a bankruptcy attorney.
Right, which I didn't do, still don't do.
Special rules.
Yes, and I ended up, that trial started August 29th, 2015, and I think we got the verdict on December 18th, 2015. We were the plaintiffs, 3 defendants with 3 sets of good lawyers defending it. And we basically put on a 7-hour live show every day for those, what is that? September, October, November, December, 3.5 months.
Dude, that's a lot of work and expensive.
Yeah. And I, just at that time I was 250 pounds. I had 2 big, beautiful man boobs. It was,
and you're drinking a lot of whiskey, I bet.
Right. Well, I was drinking half a bottle of scotch to go to bed because all I want to do is win.
A cup of coffee in the morning.
A pot of coffee to get up.
Pot, yeah.
And I was like, I remember thinking, if this continues, I'll never see my grandkids. I'm going to die. Right. I want to win so bad that I drive myself crazy.
But it's bad for you.
Wake up in the middle of the night, researching shit. So
yeah, that obsession I believe is good at times, but also sometimes it can be bad.
Yeah, most super successful people have that trait in them. The guys who can manage it have long, prosperous careers. The ones who can't end up as alcoholics or dead at an early age from heart attacks or whatever. So after that, I decide I'm going to get out of trying cases and get into real estate. Takes me a while to wrap up my trial docket. And then I start flipping houses. And it's almost therapeutic. And I'm actually doing the work. I buy the house.
Yeah.
And I go out and I fix shit. I don't know how to fix shit. I learn how to fix shit. And I
You have this interesting pattern of going from like physical to professional
Yes.
a little bit.
You're right. I hadn't even thought about that. And then that's when I run into you. I'm a house flipper who is also a lawyer, who does some law, but not a lot, and I was also driving Uber at night because I wasn't making any money.
You know what's really interesting about that? There's so many times where I make commitments and then sometimes I look at my calendar and that day I'm just like, I don't want to do anything I agreed to do. And I'm like, fuck it. I don't do anything I need to do. And I just don't do it and go do something else.
Right.
Well, that real estate investor meetup meeting, Bill's like, all right, come on, let's go. And I'm like, dude, I don't have it in me today. Fuck it. I'm going home. He's like, come on, you told me you're going to go. He's kind of harassing me. I'm like, all right, we'll go.
Right.
So we go. So at first I wasn't even supposed to go anyway because I changed my mind.
Right.
And then who knows what you anticipated to meet there, but you didn't show. There's another lawyer there that same day who I also met. He shows up in his suit, blah, 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 and all that shit. You show up in jeans and boots. You looked like a house flipper, not a lawyer.
Right.
There's a lot of reasons why that whole thing shouldn't have worked out.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then there's 100 of us there, and you give your presentation, and I'm drinking a beer, and I remember thinking, that's fucking genius. That will work.
You know what I realize now when we were talking about it? I thought you practiced more at the time than you necessarily did, but I didn't ask that. I just assumed he's a lawyer. So I just pictured, got an office, you worked there 40 hours. I never really asked that, but looking back, I'm like, no. I realized you started practicing more then.
Oh, you got me back into the practice.
Shit, I didn't even know that.
I mean, I'd gotten my realtor's license, and I'm working at, I have my license hung with Stepstone, Angie. I'm sure you know Angie. Yeah. And Angie used to have the masterminds, and she would introduce me as a recovering attorney, which I liked. I was like, yeah. And I would help some of the Stepstone people, but it wasn't
old habits die hard. Sometimes we go back to the old habits, eh?
Right. And matter of fact, I was there with 2 Stepstone realtors. They're the ones who talked me into going. And I just remember.
How weird is that?
Thinking, that's fucking genius. And the 2 realtors I'm with, they don't understand what the hell you're talking to. I'm looking around the room. Nobody understands it except for you and me.
So for the listeners out there, I was talking about buying fractional interest, title defects, the deals that no one else really wants to do, that I do those deals with purpose.
Yes.
And I remember us having a conversation about that and it just being like, oh, wow, like this guy gets it. It's a good conversation. And I remember afterwards, Bill's like, why don't we do some work with that guy? And I was like, okay, let's do some work with that guy.
I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but I walked up to you after that.
You gave me a card, I think.
And I said, there's only 2 people in this room who understood what you said. That's me and you. My name is Dan Burke. I'm an attorney, and you need me. Because you're going to need my letterhead to help get these deals across the finish line. And you're like, wow, okay. And I give you the card, and you're like, you maybe ask me 2 or 3 questions. And then somebody else came up to talk to you. And then the next morning at 8:01, you waited till 8 o'clock. You called me. And you go, Dan, yeah, this is Logan. You remember me from last night? I said, absolutely, I remember you. And he goes, I want you to come down and meet myself and my partners, and we want to talk to you.
Oh, yeah, you showed up in like some boots with your jeans tucked into it, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? Where's this guy's suit?
and you actually said, you go, we will pay you for your time. And I was like, this guy's different. He said, just to talk to us. We will pay you for your time. Okay. I said, I'll be there in an hour or whatever. And that's back when you guys were downtown. Mm-hmm. And it was you, Ryan, Dave, and then Bill came in and out. And you guys essentially cross-examined me for 2 hours. And then you basically go, okay, we think you know your shit. And you gave me 2 AdCat files and a $5,000 check from AdCat. And you said, we'll see how you do on this. And that started the relationship.
Golly. I haven't really thought about that. That's exactly how I recall it. And obviously it's developed a lot of the time, but I haven't really thought about it in that like fashion.
That meeting changed my life. Your presentation And that meeting with you and Ryan and Dave and Bill changed my life because now, 6 years later,
You really practicing in?
Yeah, and I got 2 attorneys working for me. I'm making good money. I actually enjoy practicing law because by the time I had stopped, I was so burned out on trying cases. I was like, if I ever go back to a courtroom, it'll be as a defendant because I'm not going back in as an attorney.
I believe also that changed the trajectory of the way I do business and resulting in my life as well, because up to the time I'd worked with half a dozen lawyers that were all small guys with or without help. I don't know. They never call you back on time. They're really not totally sure, but they're going to figure it out and get back to you. A lot of the small guys are like that, but I didn't have that experience with you. And I remember thinking, oh, wow. And at that time we were really developing like these type of deals, and we just needed constant legal that was attentive and proficient and all those things. And that's where I think you got what you needed out of us and we got what we needed out of you. So I really think we both kind of grew together there.
I agree.
Because
my recollection is similar because you would actually call Sunday morning at 8:00.
Yeah, I was working every day.
And you're like, I know you're the only attorney who'll pick up his phone on a Sunday. He goes, you're probably working. So, yeah, I'm working. He goes, what about blah, 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 blah. I'm like, slow down. I'm hungover. I'm writing shit down. Okay, that could work. I got to check this out, but I think you may want to consider this approach. And you're like, okay, I like that idea. I'll think about it. And that was it.
That was a really big turning point because without consistent legal, there's a lot of dots. We were connecting, but not as clearly and as cleanly and as quickly. And that really started to happen at that time. But without that kind of constant legal support, you're still back in the category of just the standard investor who doesn't really have legal. I mean, they're doing deals, but if the deal falls apart, the deal's done, you go to the next one. And we don't let deals fall apart. We just keep going.
Right.
And we put them back together with legal. So that was a huge difference. So at this point, it's been like half a dozen years, really got back into like true practice.
Yep.
And at this point, like there's a lot going on, but I mean, I think you do a lot of investor type work and a lot of the curative, the messy type deals.
Yep.
If I understand it right.
Absolutely. I would say 80% of my practice is real estate, and of the real estate, messy deals are 90% of that 80%.
It's shocking how many messes there are out there. And us and a lot of people I know are working our best to clean as many of us as we can, and we're not scratching the surface.
Right. And you know, you give people my name, which I appreciate, and you also tell them, look, pay your vendors. And when I have the first conversation with them, they said, yeah, Logan told me your bill gets paid first. I'm like, okay, we're good. And then they tell me their problem, and I'm like, yeah, we can probably fix that. Send me this, send me that, send me this. And then we go. And you develop a relationship with another real estate investor. And then, you know, over time, I don't know how many files you guys have, but we started with 2. Among the companies, we've grown from 2 to, I bet, 300 separate files.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay. Other investors, you know, John, our mutual friend, he started with 1. I bet he's around 25.
Yeah, that sounds right.
You know, that's just how it works.
You know what?
Call me back.
I bet there are not very many attorneys. Actually, I can't think of any other attorneys that probably have done as many files in curative type work than you've probably done that I know or anywhere close to aware of.
The only one I would even wager guess is that guy out of Dallas that we crossed swords with last year on the property over in Conroe.
Oh, because he's kind of like because he's an operator of sorts.
He's not only a lawyer, but he also owned the LLC that we were up against. And then
interesting.
Y'all ended up making the decision because he made you a fair offer. He realized when we talked to him, he was like, okay, you do what we do.
Yeah, I remember selling out to him.
I think he had 75%, we had 25%. And he goes, I'll make you a fair offer. And I think you guys ended up making like 10. on your interest. And Kyle was handling that file, and he's like, yeah, I'll take that. It's fair. You know, it's not what we hoped for.
You can't win them all.
Right.
You can't win them all.
I mean, like we talk. You know, if all you do is hit singles on every file, you'll end up in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You know, yes, we thought it was going to be a triple. Okay, it ended up being a single. Dad.
That's okay too.
Right. You're never going broke hitting singles. You're going to end up in the Hall of Fame.
What do you think is the most common thing you're seeing from investors when they call in? They're calling you because they know that you deal with mess of deals. Mm-hmm. What's the most common call you get these days?
Okay. Experienced investors will call with one set of problems. Newbies, they call with, I don't get it.
Oh, they're looking for conceptual guidance.
They need overarching support. They need explanations. Then we move to the mechanics of how to get it done. So, for instance, there's an investor out of Dallas. He's new to the fractured title. He knows you. He's taken your classes, and he kind of gets it, but he goes, so what do I do next? It's like, you actually pay the taxes. Do I pay all the taxes? How much taxes are owed? $23,000. Are we talking about a home run, a triple, a double, a single? What do we know about the other co-tenants on the property, et cetera?
You know, it just occurred to me, most attorneys, they're all bright guys usually, but they have a hard time matching the business case with the legal project. Some of them do it. Some of them say they're doing it. Most of them really don't. They don't cross that. But because you're so entrenched in this, you're looking at the business case along with this, where most of them truly don't. That's a really interesting thread.
As I tell Renee and Everett, my associates, guys, we're here to help these guys make money. If you don't understand their business, how the hell are you going to help them?
Most attorneys are here to do a legal thing.
Right.
And you guys realize we're here to try to help these guys earn money with the legal skill.
That's it.
With the legal thing.
I'm a vendor. It's no different than when you hire an electrician. What is he? He's a freaking vendor.
You're fixing a lot more expensive problem.
Right. But I'm a vendor.
Yeah.
I want to understand your business. And I'm like, okay. So he says, like, $23,000 owed in taxes. I don't think the co-tenant has much money. You know, I said, but how much does the co-tenant own? He goes, well, there's 7 of them, but I bought 6. I said, so
you got to hold out.
14%. Okay, it's the last guy. All right, probably the brightest one. I said 14% of $20,000 is $2,800. That's not a lot of leverage. I think you ought to buy as much leverage as you can buy. So pay the entire tax bill, send me the receipt, then we'll send them a letter. And we'll explain the Texas law to him, which is, as a co-tenant, he's responsible for his share of the property taxes on the property, as well as the maintenance and upkeep of the property. And then I said...
And what does that mean for those who don't know?
It means whether you know, whether you are aware that you own the property or not, you are responsible for your share of the property's expenses. What are expenses?
Why would that matter?
Well, because if the other co-tenant pays it, then you are now a debtor to the other co-tenant who is a creditor.
Bingo.
And the courts will give you a judgment for it. And you know, if you think about it conceptually, it makes sense. If you're a
relief exists for this dispute.
Yes. If you're a co-tenant, you know, you should be responsible for your share of whatever it takes to keep that property up and going. Yeah. Property taxes, maintenance, reasonable repairs. If there's a hole in the roof, you get to repair the roof. You don't get to repair the roof with a metal roof made of gold, but you get to repair the roof. Okay.
Equity is consequence. You want to keep a job, you got to show up. You want to keep a marriage, you got to deal with the things it takes to maintain a wife and a life and a relationship. You want to own office, you got to pay the mortgage.
Yep.
You want to own equity in a property, you have to mow it, you have to pay the taxes, and you have to keep it safe.
Yes. It's
Some people get confused about that, but it's very simple if you don't have this emotional blockage or wreckage.
Yes. And, when I talk to a co-tenant and they don't get it, I'm like, look.
It's sort of abstract.
It's your responsibility. I mean, I understand that I use the word interest. You can swap out interest for ownership. You own 1/10 of the property. Well, what's the property? The property is the house, okay, and the dirt that it sits on. That means you own 1/10. You're responsible for 1/10 of the bills. It just makes sense.
What does a typical person say to you? Because I've never asked this. What does a typical property owner say to you when you tell them that?
They say
the most common response.
Wow.
I'll be darned.
I didn't know that.
Smack their knee.
I didn't know I owned the property. And B, I didn't know I owed money on the property. I said, yeah.
So the interesting part about that is they either owed it to the tax jurisdiction and code compliance,
Yep.
or they owe it to a co-owner, whether that's a relative or an investor or whatever. They owe the money to somebody. The debt might change places, but they owe it.
Without a doubt. It's not that the co-tenant that paid the debt made it up. It was already in existence.
I noticed there's a lot of skepticism. Like this was something that we did early on when we'd have the conversations. People would say, I just don't believe all this stuff. You're just some dude telling me it all. And that was where we got to this process. We try best we could. And if we couldn't get it done, we'll say, well, Dan, you try to talk with them.
Well, that's what I knew was you needed when we met at the investor meeting. I said, he needs me.
Yeah.
He needs the credibility that comes with a lawyer's letterhead. And I know when I send out letters for you guys and they hit, they're delivered, the next day there's a spike on my website.
Somebody went to go look.
Those people are there for 2 minutes. danburkelaw.com. And they look and they're like, shit,
This is
a
real.
real lawyer. Oh, wait a minute. I'm smart. Let me double check. I'll go to the Texas bar. And then they type in my name and they go, shit, he's a real lawyer. Okay. They look at the letter. I'm like, okay, I'll give him a call. Or
Yeah, the
I'll shoot
good
him
news
an
is
email.
that, honestly, I bet out of every letter or call that's made or whatever, I don't know, that 90% of them, that starts the conversation and it goes somewhere. It doesn't have to turn into a lawsuit, doesn't have to turn contentious. Right. That gets the conversation going.
And that's what I explained to the new investors. Look, this letter, it's an offer letter. Some call it a demand letter because we both use the stick and the carrot in the standard letter, right? I said, but all we're trying to do is get them to come to the table. If we can get them to email me or call me, that gives us the opportunity to explain to them the situation. And then if they have questions about the Texas law, I'll be happy to explain it to them too.
Sure.
I'm not their attorney. I don't represent them.
So you can tell them what the law
But I can tell them what the law is. And if they go, well, how can I read it for myself? I tell them where the cases are.
Go to Google.
Right. Here's the case. Go read it. I suggest you pay attention a lot to the second page, about the third paragraph. That's where the good meat is.
So that gets them in a position where they got to do something. You can't just sit because that's where you get in trouble. But you can sell to me. You can sell with me. You can cut a deal with me and we sell together. Right. Like there's a lot of options. But at this point, it's either going to the tax sale or someone like me is going to work on it, and you can't do nothing anymore.
Correct. And once they get their arms around that concept, I would say the conversion rate is fairly high.
Yeah.
Over 50%, and that's why you just want to get them to come to the table. And I explained to my guys, yes, we send out letters and we want our letters to look good and professional. And, so we pay attention to what we do. But the other thing is when we get a phone call, you got to be good on the phones. And the first thing about being good on the phones is shutting up and listening. The second thing is don't come across as a lawyer. Come across as a real person. If I hear you lecturing at anybody, well, you can't lecture to our clients. We'll get fired. They're not putting up with that shit. But don't lecture to the other co-tenant. Just be a regular person. You're educated on the subject. Explain it to them. Don't pressure.
Yeah.
You know, oh, if you don't do it, we're going to sue you.
Big
well,
fight.
you said you'd sue me in the letter. Absolutely. It could end up in a lawsuit. And my client has authorized me to file a suit against you. But that's the last thing we want to do. That's bad for you and it's bad for my client, and I hate court.
Let's just make a deal.
Right. Let's do a deal. You know, you don't like my client's offer? Make him a counteroffer. I promise you I will get you a response within 1 day. You decide you don't, my client doesn't like your counteroffer because, you know, what the counteroffer is, I own 10%, the house is worth $200,000, so I want $20,000.
Yeah. So then my return to that is, well, did you pay the taxes? Did you clear up the title issues? Correct. Have you done any of the maintenance and legal work that we've done? Oh no, you've just been sitting back and chilling. Wait a second.
Right.
It's actually not worth $200,000 because it's going to cost you 7% to sell it.
Yep.
So it's worth minus $14,000. So now you're at $285,000.
Yep.
Now you see how that could whittle down. And oh, by the way, we think it's worth $200,000, but if you go to market, it only sells for $175 minus realtor fees, and now it's $160.
Yep.
How do we reconcile that difference? There's a business case somewhere in here.
And you know, there's additional taxes that are owed. There may be additional co-tenants we have to deal with. The time frame to get it on market and then converted into cash could be 9 months, or you can take my client's offer. He's basically giving you whatever, 50% of what you perceive retail value to be, which it isn't, okay? Or he's giving you 40% or 30% or whatever of what you perceive. But you'll have that check tomorrow. And I will vouch for it. You've already looked me up. I'm a lawyer. My guy will pay you. I will prepare the paperwork. I will email it to you for your review. You can take it to an attorney of your choosing and go over it. And if your attorney doesn't like it, he can call me and we'll talk about modifying a term, okay, or whatever. And then when we're all said and done, you know, you'll get your money like within a week.
It's shocking to me how many people have never been to the property, didn't even know they were an owner. Mm-hmm. It would have gone to the tax sale and they would have been none the wiser anyway. But when you call them and say, hey, let me send you $5,000, they're like, no, my share's worth 25.
Right.
I'm like, dude, this is completely gone. You're never going to live there. You have no connection. You didn't even know the family members because that person left, you know, the family at 16 years old and ran off to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Come on, don't make it more than it should be. And then it can turn into something more. It's shocking. Every time that happens to me, I'm just asking myself, like,
they just need to be educated.
What is it?
And if we can get them to call, and then after they get done ranting or raving or whatever, then you just start educating them. And it goes back to what I tell my guys. Dude, shut up, listen, don't lecture, and then start explaining to them. You know, it's not like you're lying to them. It's not like you're trying to sell them a freaking beater used car.
Yeah.
All you're doing is explaining the law and telling them this is my client's offer.
That's kind of deal.
My client values your interest at X.
When I ask this question, tell me the first property that comes to mind. What would be the craziest one that comes to mind for you? Craziest project?
South 3rd Street, hands down.
Why that one?
Well, if I remember correctly, we purchased an interest from a man who was in Huntsville for life.
Oh, that's right.
And he was so grateful that we offered him money. We had to pay him through the commissary. And at that time, for whatever reason, y'all couldn't get an account at the commissary. Like they restricted it only to lawyers or something. I don't remember.
All these strange
Ago.
processes.
But for weeks, I'm sending the maximum contribution to a man who's in jail, prison for life, to his commissary. I mean, he was living high on the hog. I mean, cokes,
I was about to say.
Cokes and chips out the ass.
Tattoos and shit, right. Cigarettes.
But and we got the paperwork all executed in prison and the whole bit. And it was hard.
Yeah, that started out kind of crazy.
And then he sends me a letter. And he goes, I just want you to know how grateful I am to your client for buying my interest. It's the only way I got any inheritance out of my grandmother's house. And that's the only thing we got. And I want to tell you a story. The last time I was out on parole, I went to the house and I thought that I had the same rights to the house as my cousin who lived in the house. And that crazy bitch pulled a gun on me and told me that she was going to shoot me between the eyes.
And you're hearing that from a dude who's in prison for life.
Yes. And he wrote, his handwriting was beautiful.
I remember the beautiful handwriting.
It was almost calligraphy. And every word was misspelled.
He had all the time to practice, but none to look it up.
Right. But what struck me is how grateful he was. And that's when, you know, I've always said that, you know, you guys are Santa Claus and I'm just an elf. I get to like deliver the toy, but you guys are Santa Claus. You're responsible for the toy.
The good news is your bedside manner is good. You're a nice guy. You're easy to deal with. And people like that about you, which I like. You're not one of those lawyers who are just like a bull in a china shop, because nobody likes those guys, not even their wife and kids. Like, you're a likable dude, and that I think that benefits.
I do. I tell them, I'm like, look, guys, you'll get more business done and you'll help our clients better if people like you. Mm-hmm. If you come across as a condescending asshole, they may hang up just because they don't like you. And then that's a deal that we didn't get, that we could have got. And, you know, over the long term, if we can't help these guys get the deals across the finish line, they're going to find somebody prettier than us. I mean, they're not going to stop. They love what they do. They get to the office early. They stay late. They bullshit about real estate. I mean, they like real estate like I like golf. I'm like, I get it, you know?
Yeah, it's fun.
And our job is to help them. And we're elves. They're Santa Claus. And on some houses, we get to send off letters and say, we got a $5,000 present for you. Let us deliver it, okay? And you know, sometimes you get people who don't get it, and they think that the real estate investors are vultures or bad guys or whatever. And after they get done yelling at me, I'm like, okay, I hear you. You want to know what my guys really are? What's that? Santa Claus.
Pennies from heaven, baby.
I said, you were never going to get any money out of your interest. This was going to go to the tax.
The sheriff has done 5,000 times more deals than I've ever thought about doing. Right. Are you kidding?
They're going to sell it. You ain't going to get anything. Mm-mm. My client is offering you $5,000 for a 5% interest in a house that you don't live in a county where you don't live. It could be in a state where you don't live. This is a gift. And my client's willing to do all the work. My client is willing to pay me to do it. And all you have to do is say yes. Or actually, all you have to do is listen. Because if you actually come back and say, you know, I don't want $5,000, you know, I understand that I'm not going to get, you know, 5% of the retail price, whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, but could he do $7,000?
Yeah,
that's a viable counteroffer. I'll tell you what, I'll have you an answer within, you know, half a day. I send off the email to you guys respond, boom. Hey, you got the $7,000. I'll have the paperwork in your email tomorrow at, you know, whatever, by lunch. And then you review it. You have any questions, you let me know. You want to get an attorney, that's fine. He wants to call me, that's fine. You know, and then let's get the deal done. But the overarching concept is that you guys are like Santa Claus. It's a gift.
What do you think investors are getting wrong these days?
That's a great question. I think some of them are too cheap. You know, offering $100 for an interest. No, it's too easy to say no to. I think the minimum offer, regardless of the size, should be $1,000.
That's fair.
Just because it registers.
Some people aren't getting out of bed. Most people aren't even going to get out of bed for $100.
Right. I mean, dude, the kids at Bill Miller make $18 an hour.
Yeah. Also, I don't like $100 because truly it is consideration. It fits the definition of consideration. However, it's very easy for someone to say, you gave them $100. That's not consideration. And that is untrue.
Oh, absolutely.
However,
untrue.
Like we talked about earlier, the way you look, if you're likable, if you're not, it doesn't look great.
Doesn't look
So when people tell us, you can have it, I don't care, I say, how about I just give you $1,000? And people are like, huh?
Right.
Or whatever, some number around there. I don't want a free interest at all anymore.
In today's
Because I've had people come back and say, they didn't give me any money. I'm like, dude, you gifted it to me. It's a gift deed. You said you didn't want any money.
Right.
Well, then there's some lawyer, they're huffing and puffing. I'm like, come on, man, no more of that.
You don't ever want that. If you're an investor, you pay consideration. I think the minimum you pay, no matter, even if they say, I don't want it, take it. I hated my brother, whatever. No, everybody gets $1,000.
That's how it works.
That's how I think. And that's real consideration. And then your paperwork's got to be tight. So that's the first mistake I think investors are making. Some are too cheap. The other one is they've got to stay organized. Your guys are very organized. When I get an email, now we've been doing it for years. Property address, all the deeds, family tree, then who they've purchased the heirs from, how much they purchased it for, who's remaining, how much they're willing to offer. Okay.
Yeah, a lot. You get all the information you need, so you have to come back and ask a bunch more questions. The thing that I think we're lacking a little bit, and I think a lot of people out there should listen to or should add to their process, is to profile the remaining people. Who are you dealing with? Are you dealing with a district court judge? Are you dealing with a CPA? Are you dealing with a landscaper? I just think it's like being a coach. You're going to deal with each person slightly differently. And if you have idea of who you're dealing with, we dealt with a proctologist out of like the East Coast somewhere a couple years ago. Dude is mega sophisticated. You're just going to deal with him differently.
Yep.
And I don't think there's a pro or a con to dealing with a rich guy or a poor guy.
That is great counsel.
It's just having an idea of who the heck you're dealing with. Are they retired? Are they young?
You want to scout the other team.
Yeah, they live in $1 million house or public housing. Are they rich? Are they old? Are they young? Like, who the hell am I dealing with?
Absolutely.
Your kid comes into my office, I'm going to talk to him slightly different than I would you. That's how it works.
Without a doubt.
That's a piece I think they miss, and I frankly think we miss it more than we should. That's probably the bottom piece of that list that you're saying that should be there.
It is. And with some of the new investors, I send them basically a checklist. When you're opening a file, you need this, okay? And then for some investors, I sell them templates. I'm like, look, if you're going to start signing up these properties, use this sales agreement, use this deed, use this, use that. I sell it to them for $1,000.
They're better starting points than anything else on the deadgum internet.
Right. And they get to call me. I'm like, look, I'll explain them to you, and then if some deals end up a little bit convoluted. I said, if you email me my template and you just highlight the purchase price, I said, all I'm going to do is review paragraph 2, okay? And then you're going to tell me in the email, well, I'm giving them $3,000 today, and then when I go under contract, or when we clear title and get a good title commitment, I'll give him another $2,000. And when we go under contract to sell it, he gets the final payment of the $10,000. Okay, that's a little complicated for a layperson to write. It's almost like a joint venture agreement, but it really is a purchase. The payments are staggered. Okay, just send me it and I'll write paragraph 2. I won't look at the rest. And I said, that email will cost you 0.4, $160, as opposed to you sending me an email.
Whole contract.
Where I have to do the whole contract, and then I have to exchange emails with you several times to make sure I get all the material terms, or I have to call you. And then you tell me what you believe are the material terms, and then you call me back and say, I forgot this. Oh, and I forgot that, and I forgot this. Well, the next thing you know, that contract that should have cost them $160 for me to review and fix one little thing ends up costing them $800.
Yeah.
And
it takes a lot of time.
right. Well, I'm so busy. I'm trying to preserve my time and save you guys money, right? It's great.
Yeah, so a lot of that's a big step for a lot of investors.
And I call it getting organized. And then, so when they send me documents to be fixed, essentially they're my templates. These are templates that you and I have developed over the last 6 years, okay?
That have come from the trenches.
There are some work that you've put into it. There's some work that I cleaned up, and it's just an amalgamation of what's transpired.
It seems to work all right.
Right.
So I don't always love to use a TREC contract because it's lengthy. And when you're trying to get a deal done and trying to make it as simple as possible, and you're not dealing with brokers or realtors, I want something that a person can read with as plain language as possible.
Yep.
That protects him and me enough.
Yep.
And that gets the deal done.
Right.
Otherwise,
our sales agreement is quite short.
Yeah, 3 or 4 pages.
Yeah. And, I write it. My goal is to write it to where an 8th grader can read it and understand what the hell we're saying.
It's way better than even the state promulgated real estate forms for single family or whatever, or vacant land. When you read it, those sentences get long, and the way they're structured, they are right, but they're tough sometimes.
Check this box, check that box. What's this?
I don't want that to hit a person's desk or inbox and it be really hard. 4 pages, they can get through in plain language and say, I get it. I'm giving him this and I'm getting this.
Yep.
Okay. I get it.
And that's what I tell my guys. Like, look, we write it so an 8th grader can read it in 5 minutes and tell us what the deal is.
Dude, I'm going back a step a little bit. I just hit me when I asked you about the weirdest file that stood out to you. Mm-hmm. I now remember being in mediation with that remaining owner.
We were going to finish that where we offered to buy her a house in a different county.
Dude, we went through everything, the best deals you could imagine. And I remember talking to her like face to face at one point. I'm like, this chick, I realized I believe she was on drugs, like a pretty hefty dosage.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, I'm dealing with a drug. I had no idea, never met her before. I think I'd seen pictures at one point. I'm dealing with a drug addict who's actively high as hell. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that she didn't, I don't know. I wish she would have signed that day, but I'm also now thinking, whoa, she was like, she went through a mediation, like just sloshed from whatever drugs.
The reason we won at summary judgment, was not because of the law, because the judge we had was, my words, not Logan's, a do-gooder. Yeah. Is willing to not follow the law to try and get a result that the judge deems to be just. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of those judges, but they're out there. And in oral argument at the summary judgment, I said, Your Honor, like you asked us last time, we mediated a whole day mediation. We paid all the costs.
We bought her Uber and lunch.
Including the Uber to get her to the mediation. And at the mediation, my client offered to purchase her a new house on a 1/2-acre lot outside of Seguin.
That's right. I remember.
She turned it down. And I looked at the judge and I go, frankly, Your Honor, it is not my client's fault that she can't afford to live in Travis County. And the judge just looked at me and then turned to her and said, is what Mr. Burke said true? And to her credit, she goes, yes, Your Honor, I didn't want to live in Seguin. And she goes, everything else he said is true. They offered you a house, free and clear, the whole bit. She goes, absolutely. They even showed me pictures of it on the internet. They were going to buy it for me. They were going to put the contract in at mediation. And the judge goes, okay, I've heard enough. And then a few days later, we got this signed summary judgment.
When the first time I got on Google and started Googling about like, what is adverse possession? What is this? Just all these things. I remember thinking, the law is written down in books. It's in words. It's plain and simple. It's black and white. It is ultimate. It is imminent. It is all encompassing. And today I look at that and laugh, and I think it is so much different than that on the opposite end of the spectrum. Yep. It misses so much. It's the system that executes it is so interpretive.
Yep.
It's a completely different look. But today I look at the law differently when I talk to people, when you get in a conversation like this. Yeah, I know the law says this, but there's so many other factors, and people that aren't in this all the time, like what? And I'm just thinking like, I don't even know how to explain this simply to you, but it is nothing like you think.
There's like when we were talking to Zach earlier today in my office, and he brought up something about the equitable adoption. And he goes, how is this going to work? I said, well, eventually you're going to have an issue of fact tried in front of a jury. And then you read the factors that will be considered. And he goes, well, how do we address all them? I said,
testimony.
You're just going to put in testimony. You have to touch on each one, and you want your witnesses to come across as truthful and likable. And then 12 people from Walmart are going to make the decision of whether you win or lose. Well, that's cheered me up, Dan. Thanks.
Oh, gosh. That's funny. A friend of mine who you know, Tyler, he always says, that's where I got it from him. There's the 12 people at Walmart.
That's it.
And he made comments when he was talking about a trial. And this is a little earlier in my exposure to the legal world. I remember him saying, just go to Walmart and point to 12 people. The next 12 that walk in the door or some random 12, that is who your jury is. And I thought, whoa, like that person that lives over there on 32nd Street, his circle of people is this. Me that lives over here is that. Your circle is this.
Yep.
Man, it ain't our circle that's going in there. It's 12 random people in the world, and you have no idea who it is. They may like you. They may hate you. They may rule against what the law says should be right.
Oh, absolutely.
For whatever reason. That was eye-opening.
I tried a med mal case in Hidalgo County, 2005. And this doctor really screwed up. I think it was 05. I don't know. I don't remember the date exactly, but I remember the case. The doctor screwed up. It's a failure to diagnose case. Okay. 70-year-old woman presents with x-ray showing a triangular mass in her lower left lobe of her left lung. Protocol says triangular mass on an x-ray means you go in and you do what's called a bite biopsy. So you go in, you do a needle-guided biopsy on one of the machines where you can see where you're going, and you take the tiniest sliver from this triangular mass and you put it under a microscope and you determine whether it's cancer or not. At the time, that was the standard protocol. And she went to see a thoracic surgeon. Okay.
Specialist.
He's qualified. He says, no, I'm not worried about it. Sends her home with prophylactic antibiotics. He says, come back in 90 days. On the 89th day, she shows back up. He takes a chest x-ray, and the cancer is everywhere. Everywhere. She ends up getting like one lung removed, chemotherapy, blah, blah, blah.
All of it.
Fast forward, she's dead in a year. Okay. Family sues doctor. I am on the team that's representing the family. I'm a young lawyer, and I'm thinking this is slam dunk. This guy effed up. And truthfully, he did. To this day, he made a mistake.
Should have saw it, biopsy, cut it out, never metastasize.
They probably go in and do a lower lobectomy, take the whole thing out, because clearly she had bad cancer that was going everywhere. And she may still have died, but he would have, all you're held to is the standard of your profession, which he violated clearly. Okay, we try this case. I think we do pretty well, okay? They defend the case. The jury comes back in 15 minutes. Zeros. They found against our family. And the lawyers that I was with who helped try the case, they were devastated. I was just in shock, okay? And I remember thinking on the drive back from Hidalgo County to San Antonio, wow, that jury just didn't do what you expected. They didn't follow the law. You know, they didn't give credibility to our experts and whatever. But the outcome was wrong. And if we appealed it, it'd probably lose, because it was just the jury's determination of the facts. And getting that reversed, unless the judge made a very bad error in admitting evidence or in the jury instruction, it wasn't going to get reversed. Okay. So my clients lost. We lost. I didn't make no money. Like, oh man, this sucks. Okay. And it taught me a valuable lesson. You don't want to trust juries. And lots of people are like, oh, the jury system's so great and everything else. I'm saying, you want to know what fucking great is making a deal on your own terms.
So an inexperienced litigant comes in angry and emotional and got some money in their pocket, so they're bolstering their chest.
Yep.
I'm going to follow Austin. I'm going to go after her. I'm going to win. Yep. I'm right. They have no idea what the other side of that looks like. And I think there should be like a course or like a 2-hour video that is put together. Every time you get a new client like that, you send them this video and it goes through all these stories and educates them and lets them know you're going to dump $10,000 the first month and then $5,000 every month after that. Some months 10. You're going to be so convicted, but 9 months in, after you're 80 grand lighter, your conviction is going to soften, and then you're going to have a couple losses along the way by some little motion practice that hurts you more than you thought.
Yep.
And a year in, you're $90,000 in. It's not what you thought. And now you're $90,000 in and you can't go back. Think about all that in the beginning because you still haven't faced that jury that you don't trust yet.
Yep.
That would be so great for people to know, but inexperienced litigants, they don't even get it. They just hammer. And then they're like, whoa, what?
When
it wasn't what I thought.
Tell people, inexperienced litigants, that they think I'm a wuss. Oh, you just don't want to try. You're not good, da-da-da. I'm like, dude, I've been through this. I've been through the ringer. I did it for 15 years. I've won. I've lost. I've won cases I shouldn't have won, and I've lost cases I shouldn't have lost. And I have no idea. And I interviewed the jury. And I said, what didn't you like about our case? Did you not like our expert? This is the case in Hidalgo County. Oh, no, the expert was fine. We believed. Well, why did you rule against us? We felt the family thought they had a lottery ticket and they shouldn't have a lottery ticket.
What does that have to do with the law? Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah,
so
that's the tricky part of this.
Are we supposed to anticipate that this jury or somebody on this jury thinks that we're going to send a message to victims that they shouldn't be compensated because they think they have a lottery ticket? How the hell are we going to know that? I didn't know it when we put the person on the frickin' panel, and I still didn't know because nobody would admit who was circulating that idea. I don't know which juror it was. And you got to remember, out of most juries, 2 to 3 people control the whole jury.
Yeah.
The rest of them are
the
followers.
ringleaders.
The rest of them are followers, I mean, I've been to jury selection 10 times here in Bear County. And I just can't wait. I was like, I'd love to get on a panel and then get on a jury. I said, I'd looked at those other attorneys and I'd tell them, you better convince me or you're going to lose because I'm going to control this fucking jury.
I'd never get called for jury duty. I would enjoy doing it.
I would.
I'll take 3 days off and go.
I've never even made it to a panel. I go down there, sit all day, and at 4 o'clock, they're like, yeah, everybody go home. But I would love to.
One of those lawyers spots you in the hall and they're like, not that guy.
Oh, no. I mean, I've tried cases before where I've had lawyers in the veneer, the jury panel where we're going to select the jury from, and they almost always get struck. I mean, it depends on which side of the V you're on.
You don't want that kind of person.
If you're a plaintiff, okay, you want the plaintiff's attorney. But the defense attorney knows that the guy's the plaintiff's attorney out there, so they get struck.
Yeah, I can't control that.
And of course, you try and strike them for cause where they're like, oh, can you be fair? I understand you're the plaintiff's attorney. Would you give the defense, the time of day? Would you give their witnesses the same amount of credibility? And of course, the lawyer's like, oh, yeah, I can be fair. I can follow the law.
Sure.
Blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, you're thinking, there's no fucking way I'm putting Thomas J. Henry on this panel. He's struck.
That's right.
Thomas J. Henry's never met a plaintiff he didn't like, right? That's just the way
he never met a plaintiff he didn't see a paycheck in. You're right.
Right. So he gets struck. And most attorneys do get struck. It's just the way it is. But I would love to. But back to your point, 2 or 3 people control the jury, and you don't know what their hang up is.
Well, that's a good message out there. I'll tell you, let me ask you this. If you're talking to the newbie who's either just kind of feeling their way into this part of the business, or they're on the outside looking in saying, that's where I'm headed and this is education to them, what do you tell them?
We go over it, risks. And I beat the drum of let's get them to a table and let's get a deal. And if we turn a triple into a single, you're still going to end up in the Hall of Fame. And it's gone so far that I was like, look, I'll file a lawsuit to help induce a settlement, okay? Yeah. If we need to take it all the way to trial, am I qualified to do it? Absolutely. Do you want me to do it? No. If we can't get a deal by the time we get to mediation, you probably need to go to the bullpen and bring in somebody who really still loves trying cases. Yeah. I love helping you guys make deals. Today we got a deal across the line for one of your guys. And when I got out and I told him, I said, we got them all signed. And I'm FedExing the check right now. He's like, yeah,
go.
Right. For me, I billed like 2 hours to that case today. Great. I'm happy. Right. $800. But for you guys,
you got the win.
Yeah. You're going to have a for sale sign in front of that 40 acres probably tomorrow. And then, I remember saying, hey, what do we got here? He goes, it's a home run. 2-run, 3-run homer? It's just a homer. Okay. We'll take a homer.
This has been fun. Well, we're running towards the end of this. Dan, when people want to find you, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I don't want any more work.
Easy.
Thank you. But they can go to danburkelaw.com.
They might have a question for you.
Yes. I mean, if they would love to, just go to my website and you can...
danburke.com.
Yeah. Contact me or contact us or whatever. And those emails come to me. And then you will get a response from either me or one of my associates that says, happy to help, happy to talk to you about helping, or, yeah, we don't do that shit.
Fair enough. If you guys are enjoying today's episode, don't forget to check out my website at www.loganfullmer.com. I've got bonus content, other podcast episodes. I've got a new book that I wrote recently. That's out there. A bunch of good stuff. So if you want to continue from here, that's the next place to go. Thanks for your time, y'all. I appreciate it. Dan, thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
It was fun.
That was fun.
My commitment to you is to deliver the most interesting, messy, and profitable real estate deals on earth. And in exchange for that, I only ask that you subscribe to this podcast and share it with a friend who can benefit.